Hello, welcome to another episode of our live stream, My Journey to the Trinity. My name is Hussein, and I kind of had two subjects I wanted to do today. One was the sign of Jonah, which I did earlier. And then I also wanted to do something about this right here. I'm sure you guys were watching the news today, and specifically about this kid right here. This was today's terrorist. This guy is a Syrian refugee. Syrian refugee. Um, and he just went on a stabbing spree. Started stabbing people in Austria. Now remember, you guys, Austria is the country that Hitler originally came from, and Österreich. You can see the cop there. You see the lady with the cop with the gun. She has a gun in her hand, and he's sitting there smiling, all happy. He just went on a stabbing spree. He stabbed a bunch of people, like I think about 6 people or 5 or 6 people, and he killed one. One of the people was killed. It was a teenager. And so now there he's sitting. He's got his finger out, which is Islamic. For Muslims, that means that Allah is one. And so it's an Islamic way of saying Allah is one. And he's laughing. He's laughing. He's smiling. And just an irritating thing. Yeah, one of the things I know is so hard for one thing that's so hard for people whose family members have been injured or killed in a an attack. One of the things you wish is that the person who did it would regret it. You wish the person would regret it. You wish they would feel sorrow for what they did, for the pain they caused you, for the way they devalued you as a person by taking or hurting your beloved, and the way they devalued your beloved by, and then to smile and to have no regret whatsoever. In fact, they're smiling. And just a very, it just kind of shows you the what here, let's just look real quick at this story here, see what happened. Just because this is today, this is the latest. There's been a whole string of these incidents, and let's just see what this says here. Syrian asylum seeker goes on stabbing spree in Austria. Teenager, oh, so this guy's a teenager, was killed. A teenager was killed and 4 others injured in a knife attack in the city of Villach on Saturday. A knife attack in the southern Austrian city of Villach on Saturday left 1 person dead and 4 others wounded. The suspect, identified as 23-year-old Syrian national, was apprehended by police shortly after the incident. The deceased was a 14-year-old boy. Okay, the suspect, they did not name the suspect, but said he had temporary legal resident status in Austria while awaiting a decision on his asylum application. A man randomly attacked passerby with a knife, Dionisio said. The motive behind the attack, whether the suspect knew of any of the victims, was unclear. 2 of the 4 injured sustained serious wounds, while the others suffered minor injuries. Austrian national broadcaster ORF reported. According to the police, the attack was apparently interrupted by a delivery worker who drove his vehicle at the suspect, preventing further harm. Media reports citing an eyewitness stated the suspect shouted, "Allahu Akbar." What does that mean? He shouted Allahu Akbar during the rampage. Authorities have not ruled out possibility of a second perpetrator, but the investigation is ongoing. Unverified images circulating online showed the suspect confronted by an armed policewoman. In the footage, he appears to be smiling while raising his index finger on his right hand, a gesture often associated with Muslim affirmation of faith, but also widely used by Islamist extremists, which is an Islamic affirmation of faith. The attack in Austria comes just 2 days after a car ramming incident at a trade union demonstration in Munich, Germany. A toddler and her mother died Saturday from the injuries sustained from there. An Afghan asylum seeker was arrested on suspicion of deliberately plowing through the crowd. Police said he may have been motivated by hardline Islamist beliefs. Yeah, Islamist. I think they should just call it Islamic beliefs, because that's what Muhammad said to do to the infidels, kuffar. Legal resident status. So there, yeah, so there, he's smiling. Just, it's just unbelievable, just smiling there. Hello, Islam is your identity. You're a proud Muslim, huh? You're proud of this. By the way, Islam is not your identity. Islam is your religion, but it's not your identity, Say thank you for letting us use your churches for our random iftar dinner. It's really kind of you. Well, you know what? Pakistan Zindabad. I just want to tell you that Jesus told us, pray for those who despitefully use you. Pray for those who despitefully use you. So Jesus knew that you would be using us, but God blesses us, when you use us. When you use us, God blesses us. And so no remorse at all. I know there's no remorse whatsoever. That's so hard for the victims, for the family of the victims when they're smiling like that. It's infuriating, and but that's Islam for you. And I just want to show you that here, this is the guy that stabbed, remember Marmari. Remember, stabbed him and took his eye out. This kid also is a 15-year-old kid, and he went in Australia, and look at him smiling. Look at him. This is the guy who stabbed Marmari. So they're very happy. We have this guy here. This guy was before, the finger again for Allah, but wearing American Nike T-shirt. I mean, he's stylish, and smiling with the bombs, getting ready to kill. And he was among the Barcelona terrorist attack that killed many people. The Barcelona. I believe it was in a subway, and it was considered Spain's 9/11. Spain's 9/11. Okay. Now these guys were also part of the Barcelona attack, smiling happily with their explosives, smiling. And this guy, I believe, chilling picture shows smiling ISIS terrorists who hacked 20 people to death in Bangladesh. Now, if it was in a Bangladesh cafe, That would be very. I would think the people are Muslims because Bangladesh is a Muslim country. So if they hacked 20 people to death, they would have been Muslims. So Islam doesn't have mercy on anybody. So, but this is the most recent one right here. Is this guy in Austria today, smiling away? He killed one person, and yeah, so very sad, disgusting. So I just want to look at a couple of things. Why do Muslims do these things? And I'm not saying Muslim, not all of them do this, of course, but they do it. And let me just show you one thing. That there's a lot about, okay, this guy right here. This is one of the Barcelona terrorists. So here's a picture of all of them again. But there's a bunch more. There's a bunch more. And so this is very, yeah, if they don't repent. But, there's a hadith. Look at this hadith. This is a Sahih hadith in Sahih al-Bukhari. It says, Allah's apostle said, Allah welcomes two men with a smile. So Allah smiles. So why are these guys smiling? Because Allah smiles. And he welcomes two men with a smile. So there's two kinds of people that Allah welcomes with a smile. One of whom kills the other, and both of them enter paradise. So if somebody kills somebody else, both of them will go to heaven, to paradise, and Allah's gonna smile at them. Help me. Yeah, Muslim, help me understand what the heck does this mean? One of whom kills the other, and both of them enter paradise. So the person who's killed and the killer both go to paradise, and Allah welcomes them with a smile. One who fights in Allah's cause and gets killed. Later on, Allah forgives the killer, who also gets martyred in Allah's cause. My goodness. So Allah's smiling. That's why they're smiling. They're going to be welcomed by Allah. So, very, very sad. It's really hard to, I'm kind of curious. Let me just look at this real quick here. Why do people who smiled, 7 people charged with murder who smiled in their mugshots. When criminals are arrested and charged with a crime, their mugshot reveals more than a police report can. They're smiling in the photo. It can be a little scary, although celebrities are notorious for grinning in their mugshots. Okay, you know what I'm interested in is the psychological. What is the psychology? I mean, what makes people smile after they've committed after they have committed a crime, a terrible crime like this? Like Luigi Mangione, the guy who shot the bank. From the first image of Mangione flashing a smile in a hoodie to shirtless images, the thirst for him has only ramped up, leaving some questioning why people are fascinated with these criminals. But I think there's a real psychological, I don't know if the conscience is what is it that makes a person smile after they do something like this? Okay. Eternal Islam. Do you want to know how we cook our food in Pakistan? We cook it on the fire of the churches. Eternal Islam. Eternal Islam, you're not going to be smiling for long, my friend. You're not going to be smiling for long. And I hope that you repent and stop talking like this, because God is listening to you. And there's coming a day where God is going to judge you because he loves his people, and he only says whoever touches you touches the apple of my eye. That means it's like you're putting your finger in God's eye. It says whoever touches you touches the apple of my eye. Apple of my eye actually means the pupil, and it's like you're putting your finger in God's eye. And God allows it for a while. He's patient, but then there comes a point where God says, okay, boom. And you have to deal with him. And he's very serious judge. I hope you will repent, Eternal Islam, or whatever your name is. You got all these different names today. Islam is your identity. I just want to tell you, Islam is not your identity. Islam is maybe your religion, but it's not your identity. It's not who you are, unless you choose to make it that, So, anyway, I just wanted to look at some hadiths about smiling, because Muhammad used to smile. In fact, he was well known for his smiling ability. He smiled a lot, almost, and his smiling, you guys, makes me feel a little bit like he's a little bit neurotic or psychotic, just because he smiles at weird times. Okay, but the hadith is full. The hadith is full of hadiths about Muhammad smiling. So let's look at some of them. Okay. Now this one is this is a weird one. Okay. It says the Prophet lay down on a leather mat and sweated. Sulaim got up and collected his sweat and put it in a bottle. The Prophet saw her and said, "What are you doing, Sulaim?" She says, "I am putting your sweat in my perfume." And the Prophet smiled. Okay, now this is Sahih Hadith. So Muhammad laid down on a leather mattress or something, and he sweat. He probably fell asleep or sweated. And then this lady, Sulaim, came and collected the sweat and put it in a bottle. Muhammad saw her and said, "What are you doing?" And she said, "I am putting your sweat in my perfume." And the Prophet smiled. So he liked that. He liked that somebody wants to put his sweat in their perfume. Interesting. Okay, a little bit weird. A little bit weird. But anyway, that they used to Muhammad's urine, his everything. The people used to lick his fingers, and so this isn't. It's weird, but it's not unheard of. Yes, Tim. Oh, Tim, it gets worse, Tim. It gets much worse than that. So now this next one is very disturbing. Well, you know what? I want to just say it. There's this particular Muhammad was called, and it's in a famous title that he had. It was called the Hawk al-Qattal. The Hawk al-Qattal. And let me see. Let me just bring these up here. This is very weird, you guys. This is very weird, and it sounds. It really does sound psychotic. Okay, it sounds psychotic, but this is again. It's in the Muslim sources. I'm not making any of this up. Muhammad was called the Dahuk al-Qattal, which means the laughing fighter or the laughing killer. Okay, so Muhammad was called the laughing killer. And I mean, just even if you just listen to that, laughing killer, doesn't that make you think, "Mm, this sounds like a bad episode of Batman, or something?" But here's I heard a statement by one of the Mujahideen that begins with prayers for the Prophet and describes him as the laughing fighter. I mean, this is from Google Translate, and so when you translate the Hokatel, it sounds like fighting laughter, but it's the laughing fighter or killer. Is there authentic hadith of the Prophet, may God bless him and grant him peace, that mentions these qualities? Okay, so somebody on a Muslim, it's called Muslim Q&A, said, I heard somebody say this about Muhammad. Is there something that actually says this? Is this actually true? Muhammad was a laughing killer? Okay, and then this is the Sheikh's answer, you guys. I'm sorry. Let me just first of all show you the Google Translate. Ana dahuk al-Qattal. I am the laughing, fighting one. This Muhammad said this. The laugh. So he'd be killing people, fighting people, and laughing. This is from their sources. Okay, here's one. It says, as for the hadith you asked about, it was mentioned in the books of the ancients, but we did not find any chain of transmission for it. The author of Hidayat al-Hayari said, as for his description, may Allah bless him and grant him peace, the laughing and fighting one, what is meant is that his laughter and good character did not prevent him, if it's God's limit and right for him, nor does that prevent him from smiling in its place. So he gives each situation what is appropriate for that situation. So abandoning laughter completely is from arrogance, haughtiness, and bad character, and its abundance is from frivolity and rashness. Ibn al-Qayyim said in Zad al-Ma'ad, which is a very famous book, as for the laughing killer, they are two dual names that cannot be separated from each other. For he is a laughing in the face of the believers, neither frowning nor scowling, even though the Quran says there's a surah about him scowling at a blind man. Fighting the enemies of God, and he's not afraid to blame of the blamer in them. Okay, help us to understand this. If anybody knows, you can help us. Here's something else. It says, El Dahuk al Qattal rides a camel. Okay, now this is like a poem about the laughing killer. The laughing killer rides a camel, wears a cloak, and is content with a piece of bread, and carries his sword on his shoulder. Ibn Faris said he was called the laugher because he, may God grant him peace, was good-natured and cheerful, despite the many people who visited him and came to him from the rough Arabs and Bedouins. No one would see him as impatient or anxious, but he was gentle in speech and kind in asking questions. So if anybody can make sense of that, have at it. I don't have a clue what this means. Okay. Let's see. Or Billy the Kid, yes. I don't know. If we have some Muslims who are here who want to come on, I welcome the Muslims. I'm going to put a invite. You guys, this invite is for Muslims who want to come on. So if there's any Muslims who want to come on and help us understand this, please feel free to come on. Here's the link. But be good. Yeah. The Hukul Qattal, the laughing killer. Okay. So let's look at there's a lot about Muhammad smiling. They said he used to smile a lot. In fact, he used to laugh so hard, and many times it says this in the hadith, that you could see his molars. He laughed so hard with his mouth so wide that you could see his molars. I'm not going to show you that, but I've done episodes about it before, and it doesn't sound healthy. It doesn't sound healthy to me. Okay. So here's a hadith about smiling. Okay. It says, I saw Ali smiling. Ali is the second caliph, on the mimbar, that be the pulpit, and I never saw him smile more than that. His eye teeth appeared. Now I don't know what eye teeth are. Okay. Then he said, I remember what Abu Talib said. He came to us, and I was with the messenger, and we were praying in Bet Nakhle. He said, what are you two doing, O son of my brother? The messenger called him to Islam, but he said, there is nothing wrong with what you are doing or saying, but Allah will never get my buttocks higher than me. Yoboye. Help me, somebody. This is okay. Then Ali smiled in amazement. I would too, at what his father said. Then he said, O Allah, I do not know that there is a slave of yours in this nation who worshipped you before me except your prophet. And he said it 3 times. Okay. So I'm not sure about this, about smiling. Okay. Lots of smiling in this. Okay. Now, the next 2 are disturbing. The next 2 are very disturbing. And when you hear them, you're going to see, Tim says that the eye teeth are the incisors. So the Dracula teeth. So the next 2 are disturbing. Okay, so let me go ahead and read these to you. And this is very disturbing. I'll tell you the background of them. The wife of Rif'a el-Qurayzi came to the messenger and said, I was married to Rif'a, and he divorced me and made it irrevocable. Then I married Abdurrahman bin Zubair, and what he has is like the fringe of this garment. The Prophet smiled. You guys, whenever he smiled, beware. Whenever he smiled, beware. But it says the Prophet smiled and said, do you want to go back to Rif'a? Not until you taste Abdurrahman's sweetness, and he tastes your sweetness. So you guys, forgive me. This is very gross, but this is in the Quran. Okay, Sunan ibn Majah, 1932. In the Quran, there's what's called al-muhallil. Al-muhallil. And what this means is that if a man loses his temper with his wife and divorces her 3 times, says, talaq, 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 I divorce you, 3 times. If it's 3 times, it's irrevocable. The woman must leave. They cannot remain married. It's irrevocable. They cannot be married again. Period. End of story. If he said it 3 times. Okay. But in the Quran, there is a provision for somebody who has been divorced 3 times. The provision is called halala marriage, or al-muhallil. In Arabic, it's called al-muhallil. And what is a muhallil? And there's many of them on Facebook pages if anybody needs one. Lots of imams do this as a public service. What the muhallil is, somebody who, because what the Quran says is, if the man divorced his wife 3 times, okay, 3 times, divorced her and said, that's it, it's impossible for her to come back to him. But then maybe the next day he regrets it. He says, oh, dude, I lost my temper and I said it and I want her back. The only way for her to come back to him once he divorced her 3 times is that she has to have sex with another man. She has to have sex with the other man. And then that other man divorce her. So she has sex with that man. That's why Muhammad said you have to taste his sweetness. He has to taste your sweetness. There's some places where it says it's taste your honey, and he tastes your honey. And he says until that happens, and Muhammad smiled. Okay, it says the prophet smiled and said, "Do you want to go back to Rif'a? Not until you taste his sweetness." And he tasted. No, talking about Abdurrahman, her current husband's sweetness. And you guys, this story is a very gross story. She came to him, she came to Muhammad, and if you read the whole story, she was beaten up by Rif'a so bad. He beat her up so bad that her skin was greener than her veil. She was wearing a green veil, but her skin was greener than her veil, according to Aisha, the wife of Muhammad. Okay. And she came to complain to Aisha, says, "Look, my husband's beating me." And then she said, "This guy is as useless to me as," and she had like a little garment, a little, material, and she said, and she was talking about his private part, that it was, he was like impotent. Okay. He was impotent. Yeah. I'm sorry, you guys. I'm sorry. But this is what's in the hadith. This is what the hadith says. And, and so he couldn't, she couldn't taste his sweetness, and so that she can go back to Rif'a. She wants to go back to the first husband. Maybe she had kids by that first husband. She wants to go back to her kids. Okay. But this guy is incapable of delivering, so that, they do what Muhammad said, so that he can then divorce her and then send her back. There's another issue about domestic abuse here, because she was beaten so bad her skin was green. But Muhammad didn't say nothing about that. Muhammad was okay with that. Muhammad didn't even mention it. It's like no big deal. He didn't care that she was beaten to where to her skin was green. Muhammad did not care at all. Didn't even mention it. What he mentioned is that because the guy came, Abdurrahman came to Muhammad and brought his two sons with him from another marriage. And when Muhammad saw the two sons, Muhammad says, "Ah, you say he's impotent? Look at this. His two sons look like him, like a crow looks like a crow," meaning he's not impotent. He's able to deliver. And so he sent the woman back to him, even though he had been beating her so bad her skin was green. So, but Muhammad smiled. That's the important thing here, is Muhammad, the prophet, smiled. So Muhammad smiled a lot. So you're wondering, why are these guys smiling? Why is this guy smiling? Okay, why is this guy smiling? 20 people were hacked. ISIS terrorist. Why is this guy smiling? All of these guys participated in terrorist attacks. Why are they smiling? Okay, now there's another instance of Muhammad smiling. Okay, guys, I'm sorry. This one is no better. This one is no better, you guys. But Sahla bint Suhail came to the Prophet, peace and blessings be upon him, and she told Muhammad, "I see signs of displeasure in the face of Abu Hudayfa, her husband, when Salim enters upon me." The Prophet said, "Breastfeed him." She said, "How can I breastfeed him when he's a grown man?" Okay, so what happened is, okay, this man and his wife, they live in this tent or this house, and they had a slave boy named Salim. He was a young boy, and they raised him as a slave. And he would come into the house and leave as however he wanted. He just would come into the house all the time. But he started getting bigger. he reached puberty, and he had a little goatee, little goat beard, the fuzz that kids get when they're like 14 when they reach puberty. He started having like a little mustache, and he's a grown man now. I mean, she says he's a grown man. And so when he came in, this woman's husband started getting jealous because this kid is now seeing his wife in the house, relaxed, maybe not wearing a hijab. And so the husband started getting jealous. And so she went to tell Muhammad, my husband is jealous. And Muhammad says, the answer is you need to breastfeed the kid. He's probably 15, 16 years old now, but you need to breastfeed him. And she says, how can I breastfeed him when he's a grown man? You guys, this is Sahih Hadith. The messenger of Allah smiled. Yeah, boy, he smiles again. You guys beware when he smiles. Yeah, boy, and said, I know he's a grown man. So she did that, and she came to the Prophet and said, I've never seen signs of displeasure in Abu Hudayfa after that. And he was also present at the Battle of Badr. So, Muhammad, let me just tell you one little secret about this slave, Salim. You know what? Muhammad, before he died, he told his followers, take the Quran from 4 people. There's 4 people who Muhammad said, take the Quran from them. They're the most trustworthy memorizers of Quran. Take it from them. One of them was Abdullah bin Mas'ud, whose Quran only had 111 chapters in it. The other is Ubay bin Ka'b, whose Quran had 116 surahs in it, rather than the 114 that regular Qurans have. And the third person was Salim, this slave guy. So he became a real close follower of Muhammad. I wonder why. Just kidding. So you guys, but Muhammad smiled. The Prophet smiled. Doesn't it sound like a little psychotic? Sounds a little psychotic to me. Exactly, Yusuf. Like on the, it was on the TV program with Hala bin Serhan that during the days of the Muslim Brotherhood in Egypt, the Muslim Brotherhood, Al-Mursi, or this Mufti, came up with this ruling that any woman who works with men in Egypt, you guys, this was like 10, 15 years ago, whenever a woman works in a place with men, she has to breastfeed them. Why? Because that way, when she breastfeeds them, those guys that she works with become her sons. And so when they're her sons, there will be no sexual temptation. So this was Muhammad's solution. And there's a mufti in Egypt who made a fatwa that women who work with men have to do this. And he was being interviewed on this program by Hala Serhan, who's a woman, and she wasn't wearing a hijab or nothing. She's like an Oprah Winfrey of Egypt. And she says, she shows him the newspaper article with his picture, this mufti's picture, saying that women have to breastfeed whatever man they work with so that she's permitted to be in his company and there won't be any sexual tension. And so she asks this mufti, she says, what am I supposed to do with all these photographers, these chauffeurs, these cooks, all these guys that work around me here in this studio? And then this mufti starts smiling, just like Muhammad. And he said, you got to do what's in the newspaper. The woman is blushes. Her face, she hides her face. She's so embarrassed that he said something like that. And then the audience goes crazy. I could show you the video. It's unbelievable. 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 I can show it. Hala Sirhan. Very, very unbelievable. What's amazing is that she didn't, I don't think she left Islam after that. I don't know. Maybe she did, you know. So, yeah, unbelievable, you guys. Unbelievable. So, bring us. Yeah. So anyway, literally, so Muhammad smiled. The main thing is Muhammad smiled. Okay, I'll show you some more smiling, beautiful smiling stories. Smiling terrorist sentenced to death. A Muslim mechanic dubbed the Smiling Terrorist was sentenced to death by firing squad in Indonesia for playing a key role in the Bali nightclub bombings. Amrozi bin Nur Hasim, 41, was found guilty of planning and helping to carry out the deadliest attacks since September 11th. Okay, and he's called the Smiling Terrorist. In Indonesia, which is the number one Muslim country in the world. Okay. Okay. Abdullah bin Mughaffal said, on the day of Khaybar, a skin of fat was hanging. Khaybar is where they killed all the Jews and drove them out. And to this day, Muslims, when they go on a parade or riot or something, they say Khaybar, Khaybar, you know. They yell out Khaybar because this is where the Jews were defeated. And so, anyway, on the day of that battle, this guy saw a skin of fat was hanging. I came to it and clung to it. I guess it was something that was desirable. I then said, I thought I shall not give it to anyone. I shall not give anyone any of it today. I turned around and saw the apostle of Allah smiling at me. I think if Muhammad was smiling, that means he wanted that bag of fat. And you better give it to him if you want to live. So, okay. So there you have it, you guys. Lots of reasons to smile. Allah smiles. Muhammad smiled. He smiled a lot. Okay. And one thing I just was kind of wanting to point out is that there's been a lot of these Islamic attacks in Europe and in the West. In Australia, we have these two, and these are the guys in the hospital, nurses in the hospital nurses in the hospital who told online that they kill Israelis who come to the hospital. This guy said that he killed Israelis who come. And just so you know, an update, these guys were decommissioned. I don't know what the word is in Australia, but essentially they had their licenses revoked. They cannot practice medicine anywhere in Australia. No criminal charges were pressed against them. There were no criminal charges. But they both said that they killed, we could even watch it. I know you guys have seen it a million times, but it might be worth seeing it just because for those of you who haven't seen it, it is worth seeing it. And what's more disturbing about it is the way so many are defending them. So many people are defending these guys. And the guy said that he actually killed Israelis who came to the hospital. And so Dude, we're living in a crazy times, man. Let me just play this here.
You need muscle.
You need muscle. Okay. Just 1 second here. Okay.
Town hospital nurses have been stood down over a confronting video. The video, spread widely online, has drawn outrage and fierce condemnation.
Nurse, a doctor?
I'm a doctor, my man.
A doctor? For what?
In hospital. What about you? Where you from?
I'm from Israel, from the Holy Land.
You know what? I'm gonna be really honest with you.
All right.
I'm gonna be really honest with you. You actually got a really, really beautiful eyes.
Thank you.
But I'm so upset that you're Israeli. Like, eventually you're gonna get killed and you're gonna go to Jahannam, inshallah. But like, it's pretty eyes that should stay in this world for longer.
What do you think? Why do you think I'm gonna get killed?
It's Palestine's country, not your country.
What's her name?
One day, your time will come and you will die the most.
Wait.
I want you to remember my face.
Okay.
You can understand
Gotcha.
That you will
I have a question though.
Disgusting death.
All right. Let's say an Israeli. God forbid.
I won't treat them. I'll kill them.
You have no idea how many Israeli Kharat dog came to this hospital and I sent him to Jahannam. I literally sent him to Jahannam.
Okay, so yeah, so that was in Australia earlier this week. Those guys have been decommissioned, meaning that they're not allowed to practice medicine. Not allowed to practice medicine, yeah, in Australia, in all of Australia, okay, both of them. And the guy yesterday, he was taken to the hospital supposedly for mental health evaluation because he didn't know what he unleashed on himself. This thing has gone international. The Prime Minister of Australia got involved. Everybody, he lost his job. I don't know if he lost his job yet, but he's been at least temporarily set down. Of course, I don't think they're ever going to let them. They said that they would never work again in that area, like that. I don't know if they call them states in Australia or what, but they'll never work in the medicine in that area. But I then heard that their licenses were revoked, so they cannot practice medicine anywhere in Australia. One guy, because the guy came from Afghanistan when he was 12 years old with his family, and he's been living in Australia since he was 12 years old. There's some people who are trying to see if they can revoke his citizenship. So to revoke his Australian citizenship because of this. And you guys, you know what else they have to do? They have to go back and see every single patient that these two nurses ever worked with. They have to go back and see every single patient that these guys ever gave a shot to, gave medicine to, took to emergency room, whatever these nurses do, whatever contact they had with any patient, they have to go back now at the hospital and look at what happened to those patients, because that guy said that he killed Israelis. He said he killed Israelis who came to the hospital. That's what he said. And he says, you don't know how many Israelis. He later said it was a joke. Okay, but I don't know. What do you think? Is it a joke? So anyway, the hospital officials, they have to go back and see every single patient that these guys ever dealt with, especially if they're Jewish, and make sure they didn't get sick or they didn't die after the treatment. Ya ba ye, ya ba ye, ya ba ye. So Australia has a big headache. a big problem on its hands. And so I don't know what to think, you know. And last week, you guys, in Sweden, there was a guy who burned the Quran. Remember Selwan, I think it was his name, who burned the Quran, and some guy killed him. He was killed. He was murdered in his house because the Swedish police no longer protected him. The Swedish police didn't want to protect him. The Swedish people I love Sweden. I lived there 3 years. I'm not going to say anything about Stockholm Syndrome. Okay. But they weren't protecting him anymore. They did protect him for a while, but they weren't protecting him anymore. And someone came and killed him. This guy knew he was going to get killed for what he was doing, but he was doing it for the Swedes so that the Swedes would see the truth about what's written in the Quran and the danger it could present to them. And so he got killed last week. Then there was a guy who rammed into the driver who hit several people in. He was also I believe he's an Afghani refugee in Germany, and he in Munich hit a bunch of people. 2 of them died. And then about a month earlier, a guy at a Christmas fair in Germany drove his car and killed people there. And I don't know if he killed anybody, but I think he did kill people. Yeah, I think he killed like 5 or 6 people. So this is happening a lot, you guys, and it's scary. It's really scary. You know, the Europeans are very nice and they feel guilty. The Europeans feel very guilty. They've been made to feel guilty about their imperialism, about their abuses, about the fact that they're living a good life with the rest of the world suffering so much. And so the Europeans feel very guilty for their prosperity. And so they are trying to make up for it by opening up their doors for everybody. And, and now they're being pushed into a corner. The thing about Europeans is, based on their history, is you can push them only so far before they wake up. And when they wake up, it's not nice. I hope, I hope that things don't get ugly. But you guys, you know what else I'm thinking? And again, this is kind of like, I'm a prophecy buff, is I'm thinking this is maybe what would lead to the Antichrist. This is something that would lead, because, a lot of belief is that the Antichrist is going to come out of the reformed Roman Empire. Well, the Roman Empire is in Europe. And so, that this situation that they're in right now may lead to the establishment of the Antichrist system. And, I'm not sure. I don't know. But, with all the stuff we've heard about the Antichrist coming from Europe, with the way things look right now in Europe, I wonder. And so there's been so many of these situations. And today, smiling Syrian refugee, look at that girl. She has a gun in her hand, that police woman. And he's smiling. Okay. All right, you guys. They're misled. Yeah. Because they think they did Allah's will, deserving a place in heaven. Yes. And remember what Jesus said. This reminds me of what Jesus said. Those who kill you will think they are doing God's service. Those who kill you will think they are doing God's service. That's what Jesus said. And you know what? Europe needs a Donald Trump. Europe needs a Donald Trump. And if you saw what J.D. Vance said to Europeans yesterday, if you haven't, I encourage you to go listen to the whole thing. Okay, it starts out a little slow, but man, he gets really heavy towards the end of it. And the Europeans are like, yeah, you know, because they hate Donald Trump. But I tell you what, go listen to what J.D. Vance said yesterday, because really, it really is the solution for Europe. You know, and yes, Lord, reveal yourself to them so they may would turn from Saul's to Paul's in Jesus' name. And many, many of them are doing that. Many of them are doing that. And we just need it to be more. So, yeah, here's they shall put you out of synagogues. Yea, the time cometh, and whoever killeth you will think he does God's service. John 16:2. Yep. So, all right, you guys. Well, this is my second live stream today. So, thank you for hanging out with us. And if you haven't done it, please do it now. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. And I pray, and we pray for these Muslims. We want them to know the Lord Jesus. I was Muslim. My family's Muslim. My relatives are Muslim. I love Muslims. We want them, yeah, because I did one earlier about the sign of Jonah, you know, about the guy who was swallowed by a whale, and just like kind of a Jonah story. So, yeah, you guys. So, if you haven't done it, do it now. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Jesus, help me. Jesus, forgive me. Jesus, come into my heart. Yeah, I'll make Yusuf a mod for sure. يسوع ساعدني. يسوع سامحني. يسوع ادخل قلبي. We love you, and more importantly, he loves you. And so let me just do one thing here real quick, you guys, before we take off here. I just wanted to make Yusuf a mod. You know, I didn't have mods for a long time, but I kind of went on a mod diet. But I've started to have mods again. Okay, so Yusuf, I made you a mod. I don't know what that means. I don't know what it means. I've never been a mod, so I don't know what mods. Yes. So God bless you guys. Thank you for yeah, you're getting a big raise. We can start calling you Elon Yusuf Musk. Yusuf Musk. Yeah, so God bless you guys. Thank you so much for hanging out with us. Have a wonderful day in God's house tomorrow, and we look forward to seeing you again. Be blessed. Have a good night.
ابني
Juliana.
If you have ever wondered why Dahl apologists lie so much, it's because on a rare occasion that they tell the truth, this happens.
One of the reasons I accepted Islam was the scientific miracles. I'll be honest with you. And now we know that this whole scientific miracles was absolute nonsense.
You're going to have to repeat that.
Now we know that this whole...
that the standard narrative has holes in it. That's what I'm going to say.